Ruby Franke wants a new hearing. We're going to be reacting to that right now because this case is getting crazier and crazier. By the way, Ruby Franke, that one, abuses her children. It's all alleged, even though one of her children escaped her house and was tied up with ropes, supposedly, and had tape on him. He was malnourished. Starving, thirsty, just destroyed, and causing the neighbors to cry. And that's sad. I'm laughing because it's so sad that this is allowed to happen in our society. But, it happens every day. Well, anyway, she had 2 million followers for 8 passengers on this platform, which I can't talk about here. But it doesn't matter because it's not going here. This is going to go straight up to my, to this platform, actually. So, and then the cops show up, and they find their daughter, these two, their daughter in that house, also taped up and malnourished. And the brother had to escape to protect his sister. So it's that in that way that the child's a hero, but he was also, probably very confused as to why his mother was trying to end his life. Although she didn't, clearly think she was doing anything wrong. That's how you discipline your children right there. To this mental wellness coach or whatever she calls herself. It's none of it's validated. She doesn't have any kind of psychological degree. She's just Ruby Franke with a YouTube channel with 2 million followers. At least that's what she used to be. Now she's in jail. So anyway, we're going to get into this. Ruby Franke, prosecutors seek new hearing for accused child abuse mom. Let's find out what they got going on today. And yeah, it's not looking good, okay? And I'm glad it's not looking good for her because I don't think she should be around children. Let's find out.
Jody Hildebrandt and the panelists are going to help you understand the difference between honest and emotional honesty.
Jody Hildebrandt is a psychologist who came in to help with this woman and, how to raise children. By the way, was also there allowing those kids to be abused. And she's been in the picture for about 3 years. The dad has not been living there for 13 months because Hildebrandt, the psychologist, said that they should be separated to save their marriage. A lot of speculation that, Ruby Franke, this is speculation. Ruby Franke and Hildebrandt had a relationship outside of this going on, and they wanted to get rid of the man, but also keep him there. I don't know. There's a lot of, and actually there's a lot of that, where like they gaslight the kids, they make the kids feel guilty, and they even use their religion, which is Mormonism. They use their religion to keep them trapped, which is sad. It's 100% sad because I know tons of Mormons that aren't like this at all. But let's go ahead and get into it.
Honesty.
Is it possible the Ruby Franke case could be wrapped up before the end of the year? We have to talk about what could be very important hearings, and who better to join us than KUTV2 News' Brian Schnee. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Well, we have a legal update for you in the Ruby Franke case out of Utah that is, I will say, very interesting. It is. So Franke, of course, is the former creator and star of her now defunct YouTube channel called 8 Passengers, where she doled out controversial parenting advice. Only now, she and her business partner, Jody Hildebrandt, are each charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse with respect to 2 of Ruby's young children who were found in Hildebrandt's home. In fact, to be a little bit more accurate, while Franke's daughter was found in the house, her son actually escaped the home and ran to a neighbor who called 911.
911, the address of your emergency.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. We know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
The boy was reportedly...
Okay, what they didn't play was the full clip. He breaks down crying. The neighbor, looking at a 12-year-old child, breaks down crying. because he knows that abuse has happened to him. You could see it physically, and that there's abuse happening right now in Ruby Franke's house, or Hildebrandt's house. I can't remember. I think it was Ruby Franke's house. And his sister's still over there getting that treatment done to them. And that's what the cops found. That's what the cops found. They went over there and they said, hey, your son, what are you doing? Look, this is your son. What'd you do? Can we check the property? Oh, you're doing this to your daughter too? You're under arrest. Good. Any parent that abuses their children should be thrown into jail. And their kids taken away. But then the system that we have, the foster care system, is terrible. It's full of predators. It really is. Talk to a couple of people that have been in the foster care system. There is good foster care parents. There is. But there is a ton of predators that have mixed in there for money and for the kids. So anyway, let's go ahead and listen to this.
Really emaciated. And he also had wounds and evidence that he'd been tied up. The daughter reportedly found in similar condition. She was taken to the hospital to be treated for malnourishment. Now, they're technically set to go to trial, but are they? Like I said, we have an interesting development. And when we talk about Ruby Franke, who better to bring in than anchor and reporter for KUTV2 News, Brian Schnee, who has been following this case from the very beginning. Brian, always...
I like this guy. Okay, so we've been reacting to a lot of these specifically. He's been, like, on the ground there. This guy's been pulling in a bunch of, like, witnesses, lawyers, stuff like that. This guy's on the ground. I love it.
Good to see you. Thanks for taking the time. You have an interesting update for us. Tell us what's going on.
Well, it's interesting when you say legal update because there haven't been many over the course of the last few months. So when anything drops of significance, of course, that piques our interest, right? So what happened this week is the deputy Washington County attorney decided to request a waiver hearing for both Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt. They're two separate hearings. They're proposed to be later this month. Ruby's would be before Jody's. Ruby's would be in about a week and a half. Jody's would actually be after the Christmas holiday. But they proposed these two waiver hearings, and you can imagine it means that there's movement finally in terms of both sides potentially coming to some sort of an agreement on something. Now, as you know, in a situation such as this, it could mean a plea deal. It could mean even just a status hearing, which they would call for it. But we're waiting and seeing.
You know the phrase, work hard, play hard. That's a pretty easy thing to say, but you know how you feel after a big. So you can go to zbiotics.com/side buy options at checkout, or even go over any further. People are probably like, what's a waiver hearing? Let's start right there. Under Utah law, what is a waiver hearing?
Waiver hearings can actually be called a number of times throughout the course of court proceedings. And it's typically when people want to meet, both sides to come together, the prosecution and the defense. And in this situation, you can talk about where are we now and what happens next. Now, in a waiver hearing, you could, in theory, come up with some sort of a plea deal. It could have been already discussed, and now this is a formality. Or it could be kind of more of a status conference, and they move forward to a preliminary.
Okay, obviously, if they have a plea deal, okay, we're not going to have a trial. They do. She has a civil dispute with her husband over the divorce, and he dropped the divorce, I believe, last week on her while she's in prison. She's in jail. They both are. Thank God. They should not be around their kids ever, unless they change. But who knows? I mean, there's a lot of trauma there. There's a lot of trauma. But if this goes through, hey, there's not going to be a trial, and hopefully she just goes to prison, and stripped of any kind of mental fitness nonsense that she says that she has, because you don't need any of that criteria to be a mental. She made up what she is, and there's no criteria for the made up what she is that she says she is. And then her friend, who's a psychologist, needs to never be in psychology again because she was around the abuse, allegedly. I mean, she was there. So was she. The child was abused. A couple children were abused. So they clearly were the abusers. Allegedly, because, it's an ongoing court case.
Hearing or even a trial at this point. So it could be a number of things.
Right. And let's take a step back, because basically what they would be saying is, do you want to waive the preliminary hearing, the hearing to determine if there's enough evidence to go forward with a trial? Now, I'm wondering about this. And before we even get into the idea of plea deals, and we could probably talk a whole show about that, the idea that either Ruby or Jody would want to waive a preliminary hearing is fascinating to me, because from a legal point of view, that's the time you can hear the prosecution's evidence. That's the time, technically, you could get the case dismissed if the judge says, I don't see there's enough here. Kind of hold the prosecution their feet to their fire a little bit. And it's, the defense can even question some witnesses, usually, as we've seen in preliminary hearings. And I would be very surprised. You tell me, what would be any reason, other than plea, trying to work out a plea deal, any reason you could see why either Ruby or Jody would not want to have a preliminary hearing?
I can't see a reason to it, honestly. And it's one of those things that I spoke to briefly, the attorney for Ruby Franke, about a week ago. And I said, hey, anything coming down the pike you want to let us know about? Obviously, we've been following the case. And they said, we hope to have a statement in the next few weeks when we're able to basically reach some sort of agreement. And then when I got that email about a week later, this request for a waiver hearing comes out. So it makes me think there's been the dialogue, there's been something, right? And obviously the prosecution took forever to look over the, quote, copious amounts of discovery in this case. And a lot of people that comment, obviously, on your streams and all of our.
Okay, discovery takes place before any trial. If you're going through any trial, it's called discovery. You're allowed to ask for information and get information. You're allowed anything that the police have, you've got it, obviously. And they're also going to put things into evidence. Both sides get discovery. So if she's got a defense, her defense is going to have the discovery, and the offense, or the prosecutor, they're going to have the all the evidence, all the information, and they're allowed to request this information. They're also, everybody's supposed to have all the information beforehand. So, like, when they do a surprise witness or surprise evidence, that's mostly for show. I mean, because, like, a lot of the stuff that they enter, both sides should already know about. The whole surprise witness and the surprise information, that's a lot of dramatics. Like, in the Johnny Depp trial, they both knew that he might or might not, or they might or might not bring up his ex-girlfriend, who was a model, and there was a story going around years ago that she got pushed down some stairs. Well, she came on and she's like, "No, that never happened. I love Johnny Depp. He's amazing." And so the defense is all like, "No, we're good. We don't want to talk to her." But they could have brought her up to use that against him. But then, all after probably talking to her and finding out that she actually loves the guy, and there was like no hard feelings. She never got pushed down a step. That was made up. They're all like, we don't want her here. We need people to make Johnny Depp look terrible. How do we do that? That's just, anyway, so Discovery is getting all the information they need. And they said there was a lot, what did they say? Hold on.
Prosecution took forever to look over the, quote, copious amounts of discovery in this.
Copious amounts of discovery. Now, by the way, they have a YouTube, or used to have a YouTube channel going all the way back to 2016. 2016. So they could take all those videos and copious amounts. You're looking at probably years worth of information. Years and years and years. And instead of just like, okay, if you go into a crime scene and somebody, pleads, I'm not guilty. All they have is the crime scene, probably, character witnesses or whatever, going back, all the information they could get from you. This person has been documenting her life, their lives, their whole family's lives, what she's been doing, how she's been doing it for almost a decade. From 2016 to now. On videos, on blogs, on everything. So it's copious amounts of information that they have in Discovery, both the defense and the prosecution. So There you go.
Case, and a lot of people that comment obviously on your streams and all of our posts, they say, what is taking so long? Well, this to me seems like it's the discovery finally coming to an end. We've seen everything we've got, and now this could be an opportunity for people to kind of show their cards, so to speak. But you're right, though. It is interesting that a waiver hearing in theory means, hey, I'm going to waive the right to have my preliminary hearing and we move forward from there, which then, yes, you're right, could be talking about a plea.
Or it could just be we waive a preliminary hearing and we want to go forward to the rest of the criminal process, which the only way I could imagine, the only thing that I'm thinking is if you didn't want a preliminary hearing because you didn't want all that evidence to come out now, right? I mean, obviously you have to select a jury and maybe they're already getting terrible PR, but I will tell you, there's
nothing quite as terrible as having your child escape from your house, malnourished, starving, taped up, got tape on his legs and his hands, had to escape from the house, has lacerations, cuts on his body from being taped or being tied up. There's nothing quite as bad as that kind of PR than your own children escaping your house from abuse, going to your neighbor, then having the cops come in and finding your other child abused. Yeah, I agree with this guy.
Accused right now. We haven't heard anything about a defense, but we also haven't heard more of what the prosecution has, more about what investigators have. Perhaps, Brian, they're nervous, either Ruby or Jody, about this all being exposed at a preliminary hearing. And I'm wondering if that could be something. They don't want everybody to know everything about the case at this point, although I don't know, still doesn't sit well with me.
You're right, though. There's so much speculation about what this means for the future of this case. And it means if things are going to be cut short, right? Or if we do see more things pop into the court document situation here, which this case has been so thin when it comes to looking at updates and things be playing itself out through the process. Other high-profile cases, such as Corey Richins, for one, that you may be familiar with.
Oh, yeah.
There are things that seem to be popped in there almost every other day, some with significance, some with reporting significance, some not. But we haven't seen anything come forth in this case in terms of being placed into the court system here in Utah in over 2 months.
Yep.
So to see something come out now just before the holidays, just after I get that email from Ruby Franke's attorney saying, hey, maybe in the few weeks we've got something for you, to me, that gets my wheels turning here a little bit, saying, oh, okay, there's a little bit more significant movement finally in this case after so many things happened. The Washington County Jail down there decided to restructure their jail, so we never got to see where they moved from and to. We've talked about that. There's been ways where they've almost been hidden from the public eye over the last couple of months, with the exception of Ruby Franke being in court virtually for a traffic citation.
As we talked about. And of course, another big development that we talked about was the fact that Kevin Franke, Ruby's husband, has filed for divorce. It seems a separate issue.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, to be clear, in a preliminary hearing, it's a very low standard to actually, you just have to show that there's probable cause. So by all accounts, this would have been successful and prosecutors would be able to move forward with the case. Now let's talk about what you mentioned, the possibility of a plea deal. Have you heard anything to indicate either Ruby or Jody are considering that, what it might look like? It is interesting that Ruby would go first. And her hearing is first, and Jody's is second.
The only thing that I have heard, which I have tried to get insight from obviously both sides of this, either the prosecution there with the Washington County Attorney's Office, and the last time I've had good dialogue with them was a few weeks ago. But the one last week with Ruby Franke's attorney, by the way, I've never heard from Jody Hildebrandt's attorney with repeated requests. I've tried my darndest with it, I can tell you that. But when looking at...
Yeah. I wonder why that is. Okay, so like Hildebrand, not as famous. Obviously, this is all Ruby Franke's thing. She had the 2 million on, YouTube because of 8 passengers. Hildebrand's just a defamed ex-therapist, psychologist, whatever. And she's just there. She was there to give validation, I think. And now she's there to look like the crazy, child abusive therapist or whatever, psychologist that allowed child abuse to happen in the house she was in. Anyway.
Ruby Franke's.
So the lawyer probably wants to keep that as hush-hush as possible. And hopefully they just kind of glance over all the abuse she allowed in front of her and focus on Ruby Franke.
Team there that's kind of just trying to work through the facts or the evidence in the case that'll be presented to them. I do find it interesting that they said, hey, we're actually going to give you a little bit of a timetable on this, where this case has had no timetable, with the exception from the beginning where there were motions to expedite certain pieces of the process, and everything slowed way down from there. So the only thing of interest to me after seeing this waiver hearing come out yesterday, a request with nothing set in stone, was the point that, Franke's attorney says, hey, we may have something going here, and we hope to be able to give you something soon. And I'm going to pull up the language for you if I can find it too, the exact language that was used in that, because it is something that I found to be, you feel confident about things right now that you're saying there will be something maybe even before the Christmas holiday to move forward here in terms of where the case stands now, which we've heard next to nothing, Jesse. This has been so quiet.
I know. We're all reading the tea leaves, and I'm going to filibuster here as you look for the exact language. This is me filibustering, but I will tell everybody as Brian looks it up. So my understanding is Franke's waiver hearing is requested for December 18th. Hildebrandt's hearing requested for December 27th. Again, all before the new year. And Brian, I am curious as you look up this language, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but in Utah for this waiver hearing, if they waive a preliminary hearing, if they decide to take a plea, could at that hearing the whole case be wrapped up? We have, sentencing also here. I was reading that these waiver hearings, maybe we may have an answer as to this case. What happens but before 2024?
Before I answer, I'm not an attorney, so I did go to a criminal defense attorney to ask that very question. I was told yes. In theory, if everything falls in line in this waiver hearing where it comes down to, hey, we've decided, we've seen everything that you guys have. This is kind of where we want to go forward with. Both sides have come to the agreement. You know how much happens outside of court. And then, of course, yes, sentencing can happen that day, which for now, for Ruby Franke, if this actually gets scheduled and it goes that way, it could be December 18th. And for Jody Hildebrandt, if it goes that way, it could be December 27th. And things are just done. And I can't imagine that happening in this because of how much has been put out. You mentioned such a load of PR against these two. It just, to me, it would baffle me that this doesn't move forward in the process. But then again, it all depends on what they have. Now, I do want to read you that email.
Please.
Because I do have it in front of me. So this was dated Wednesday, November 29th. So we're looking more than a week now when I last was able to hear back from Lamar Windward's crew there in St. George, Utah. Our firm will be making a statement in the upcoming weeks or so on Ms. Franke's behalf. We are hopeful to reach a resolution shortly and will reach out with a statement.
Well, good. So a resolution, they're probably going to take a plea deal, which is great because, they kind of just ends the case. She'll go to jail, she'll plead guilty, whatever. Or she's going to throw Hildebrandt up underneath the bus, and she's going to blame them for her, Ruby Franke, abusing her own children. I don't know how that would work, but it might. Also, she's getting divorced by her husband. So maybe we'll go ahead and get this, or they might go to a trial. I don't know. If they go to a trial, it's just going to look even worse for them. But she didn't think she did anything wrong. She had them taped up, her kids, 12 years old and younger, taped up and starving at her own house. She didn't think she did anything wrong. Maybe she still doesn't. Maybe she wants to plead her case to the judge. Oh my gosh. I hope she's not that crazy. Because that would literally be insane. Well, let's go ahead and check this out.
So when I heard waiver hearing, and then that's in my brain, waiver hearing could be more significant than anything else that we've seen so far and could, in theory, wrap this whole thing up.
Oh, my goodness. Well, here's the thing that
Purely speculative, you know?
Yeah, here's a thing that I want to address with that resolution. So now I'm wondering, could prosecutors offer a deal with minimal or no prison time for these? I mean, I can't imagine it. I can't imagine, based on what we've seen so far in this case about these kids, aggravated child abuse, malnourishment, severe torture.
Yep.
That the prosecutors would put something on that would.
I like how he said severe torture. It is severe torture to take a little child, tie them up, and then starve them and tape them up. It is severe torture. I've heard nothing about bruising. There might have been, I don't know, but there was definitely tape, lacerations, starving, tied up with ropes.
That Jody or Ruby would accept. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we are.
By the way, we've also discussed why they don't wear makeup going into, because they want the judge or whoever's looking at them to feel bad. They want the jury or whoever's looking at them to feel bad. I learned that from the Johnny Depp trial, as Amber Heard, wore very minimal makeup, and she just bizarrely talked straight to the jury the entire time. It was so weird. But they do this to kind of like, they want the reaction of sympathy for somebody that's just, a normal human being, downtrodden, instead of celebrities, We
are talking about serious charges here that could be, if you get convicted of the most and it runs concurrently one after another, they could be consecutively one after another. They could be imprisoned for a long time.
Yes.
But I can't imagine they would accept a deal without prison time.
I can't either, but the term resolution to me, I'd imagine if everything gets thrown out, I would be so surprised.
Yeah.
Obviously. And I think you would be too. And I think so many people would be too, based on everything else that has been put out so far. Now, we're still waiting on a lot of the interesting visual, right, of the day of the arrest and how both of that looked, from the point of view of the law enforcement officers that were there. But the term, to me, you're right, resolution. What does that mean as far as the attorneys here are looking at this case? I don't know. And that's what's interesting, because a waiver hearing can mean so many different things. Now we just need to make sure it happens and see what happens in that hearing. And it could change the whole thing, really could change the entire game of this case.
Brian Schnee, apparently we will be talking a lot before the end of the year now, because these hearings could be everything that we've been looking into with this case. My goodness.
Facts.
What a development. And listen, if you want to follow more great reporting from.
All right, so it's going to be the 18th for Ruby Franke. That will be their hearing or what have you. So we'll be covering a lot of that on the 18th. And I heard the 27th for Hildebrandt. What day is the 27th? So that'd be Wednesday. So we got Christmas on Monday. So it'd be 2 days after Christmas.
From Brian.
That they'll be having Hildebrandt's hearing. And they'll either accept a plea deal or they'll go into trial. And the best thing for them is to take a plea deal. If they go to trial, all of it's going to be laid bare for the entire world to see. But they literally thought what they were doing was right. They thought torturing children and starving them and tying them up with tape and tying them up with ropes was okay. And they used their religion, which, by the way, yet again, this is not Mormonism's fault. I know tons of Mormons that aren't like this. Tons. They're all good people. But she used her religion and her weird, distorted idea of psychology and her weird, Hildebrandt's weird, distorted idea of psychology, children's psychology, and put them together to abuse children and to make money, make lots of money from people that they could, and they control. They want to control over everybody. But anyway, that's it. What do you guys think about the situation? You know, we'll have more updates as we get them. But what do you guys think about Ruby Franke and her court case? Ugh, what a mess. Oh, wait a minute. I've got people talking here. All right, it's real. Don't be mean. Come on, man. Lice breaking news. He's making a vid for YT. Oh, he? You the man, bro. You the man, bro? Oh, it's my friend. What's up? Yo, KCO, what's up, man? Dude, hey, please start memeing me like you do, KCO. He's awesome. You're a good guy, KCO. Thank you. Appreciate you. I wish. That guy's awesome. Wow, beard oil. Yep, that's the first one. Today's, let's go ahead and put the second code out there right now for today's. It is going to be beard brush. There we go. Beard oil and beard brush. There we go. Bro, Eminem he wasn't actually passing away. Guys, watch the full. When I put out information, I usually lead with some clickbait and they give you the full thing. You guys aren't even making it past a second. Where's your retention? Where's it's crazy. What happened, Daddy? Let's do Fortnite after this. GGG. Hey, L Mom. Facts, L Mom. I don't know what that is. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. We're going to go ahead and put this up to YouTube. Go ahead and follow me there. And actually, the only way to win, obviously, is to do the codes. And today's code is beard brush. Beard oil, beard brush. 2 codes. And for the Friday giveaway, I do a giveaway every Friday. So tomorrow, I'll be doing the next giveaway. There we go. You got to be subbed to my YT, my YouTube. You have to be subbed to my YouTube, and then you have to answer the questions. I ask a question. Whoever does the question first gets it. All right, peace. Okay, so there it is.